Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya
Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so last class we had finished off with a small little introduction to what is the prakriya known as the methodology known as Adhyaropa Apavada. So, and that is what the second chapter talks about. So we will read topic number 32. Please unmute yourself. Asarpa bhutayam
Asarpabhutayam
Rajjau sarparopavat
Rajau sarparopavat
Vastuni avastvaropah
Vastuni avastavaropah
Adhyaropah.
Adhyaropah.
So this is the definition of Adhyaropa. That's why at the end of the line you will see Adhyaropaha. This is called Adhyaropaha. What is called Adhyaropaha? Vastuni. So that avastvaropaha, we have to break up carefully as avastu aropaha. Avastvaropaha is to be broken. Avastu aropaha. So it becomes vastuni avastu aropaha is Adhyaropaha. So that is the definition of Adhyaropaha. So what is vastu? It is a substance. What is avastu? That which is not a substance. What is aropaha? Superimposition. So the superimposition of a non-substance onto the substance is called Adhyaropa. And he gives the example. Asarpa bhutayam rajjau sarpa aropat. Like the asarpam, like the non-snake, which is superimposed on the rope, okay, which is not the snake. So the definition has to be carefully understood. There is a rope, which is the substratum, the adhishthanam, and that here is the vastu. The rope is the vastu, the substance. On that substance rope, what is being superimposed? A vastu. That which is not the rope is being superimposed. And what is not the rope? Here it is the snake, which is actually a non-snake. Okay, so though the snake is being superimposed, it's not the real snake. So asarpa bhutayam rajjau sarpa aropavat. Like the non-snake is superimposed on the rope. And here, what is the definition of vastu? Swayam asti iti vastuhu. That which has independent existence, that is called the vastu. Swayam nasti iti avastuhu. That which does not have independent existence, that is avastuhu. Like, let us for example take the table. What is the vastu in the table? What is the substance in the table?
Wood.
Wood. So in the table, the wood is the vastu. On that vastu, you are superimposing a vastu. What is the avastu here?
The table.
The name table. Right. So the table is a vastu. And the wood is vastu. And therefore, obviously, the table is not the wood. That is why it is called avastu. And to extract from there, anything which is name and form only, which is nama rupa only, is being called avastu. Therefore, the superimposition of the avastu on the vastu has to be understood as the superimposition of name and form on a substance. And aropaha here means superimposition, of course. But for a better understanding, we can we can think of it as the appearance, like the appearance of the snake on the rope. The appearance of the snake on the rope is called superimposition over here. Not that anybody actually superimposes, but because of ignorance, you see the snake instead of the rope, and therefore the snake appears where there should be a rope. And from there, one more corollary has to be derived. Since the snake appears on a rope, the avastu appears on the vastu has to be there, and the vastu has to be real. So note that the avastu can appear only on the vastu. Therefore, vastu is a given. Vastu, the satyam, is a must. And that's why he gives the example here. Sarpa aropavat, like the appearance of a snake on what? On rajau, on the rope. And what is the form of the rope? Asarpa bhutayam. So that rope, which is not a snake, that is the vastu. And on that rope, which is not a snake, what happens? The appearance of a snake, sarpa aropavat, is there. This phenomenon of something which is not the vastu appearing on a vastu, of something which is of a nature other than the substratum appearing on the substratum, that is called aropaha, or in other words, adhyasaha, superimposition. Okay, so that's a very important concept. It is the very basis on which entire Vedanta is built up. The superimposition of the unreal vastu, of the unreal avastu, on the vastu which is real, that is what is called adhyaropaha. And if you don't want to take it from the Vedantic angle, what are we doing? We are superimposing the universe, which is a vastu, because the universe is not of the nature of the vastu, which is Brahman. The superimposition of the vastu, of the avastu universe on the vastu Brahman, that is called adhyaropa. That is called the superimposition over here. Okay. Now, what is vastu? Having he has introduced the new terms vastu, avastu. So here in topic number 33, he tells us what is the vastu. He defines the vastu itself. So that is the beauty of this particular text. Every word which is introduced is defined immediately, so that clarity in our mind remains. No word goes without a definition. So topic 33, we will read Vastu
Vastu
Satchidanandamadvayam Brahma
Satchidanandamaya
Satchidanandamadhyayam Brahma
Ajnanadi
Jnanadi
Sakala Jada Sammuha Avastu.
Sakala Jada
Sakala Jada Samuha Vastu.
Okay, so there you can see the avagraha over there, right? Sakala Jada Samuho. What do you see after that? The inverted S. What is it called?
Avagraha.
And what does it represent?
Avagraha.
What does avagraha represent?
You told in a very simple language it is the grahan of
Akagra.
Yeah, it is the grahanam of a, which means whenever you see that, you must remember that that sign indicates the conjunction, the joining, the sandhi of two words. And if you have to break it up, you drop that sign and simply add a. So that word becomes Sagala Jada Sammuho Avastu. So in this one line, he is defining two things, Vastu and Avastu. Okay, so what is Vastu? He says, Satchidananda Anandam Advayam Brahma. Satchit Anandam Advayam Brahma. Okay. Sat is what? Existence principle. Chit is what? Consciousness principle. Ananda is what? Ananda is, we take it as Ananta, the infinity principle, and Advayam. So Sat, Chit, Ananda, Advayam Brahma. Advayam means non-dual. So Vastu is defined as the non-dual existence, consciousness, and Ananta, infinite or happiness principle, bliss principle. Existence, consciousness, bliss principle. Ananda, you must remember in Vedanta, we have to take it as Ananta, infinite. Okay. Now let us remember what we talked about in Tattvabodha. What are the 5 features of existence? We talked about consciousness. Okay. So what are the 5 features of consciousness? Anybody?
It's not a
Not a
part,
part, product,
Not a part, product, or
property.
property of the body. Okay. Number 2.
it lends,
All-pervading.
It is an independent entity
which lends sentiency to the.
which lends consciousness to the body. Number 2. Number 3.
It is not limited by a spatial or time-wise
Boundaries of the body.
boundaries of the body.
Correct. Number
Mm.
4.
It needs a body medium for reflection.
The
It
survival consciousness.
Medium and the survival.
Number 4 is that even if the body dies or the body is destroyed, consciousness continues to survive. And number 5 is
It needs a reflecting medium to manifest.
it cannot be recognized in the absence of reflecting medium. So these are the 5 features of Chit, consciousness. Now remember that Brahman is Satchit Ananda. So these 5 features have to be extended to Sat and Chit also. So when you extend it to Sat, what will you say? Existence is not a part, product, or property of the body. Existence is an independent entity lending existence to the body. Existence is not, bound by the spatial and temporal boundaries of the body. When the body dies, existence does not die. And this existence cannot be recognized in the absence of a reflecting medium. That is the same definition, same 5 features of Chit, you have to extend to Sat, and you have to extend to Ananda also. Okay, once you have extended these 5 principles to all 3, you have begun to understand what is Brahman. Okay, so that is the definition of what Brahman. Vastu. Vastu is Satchit Anandam Advayam Brahman. Non-dual Brahman. There is no other thing apart from Brahman. Everything is Brahman alone. So that is the 4 words which explain Vastu, Brahman. Okay. So Vastu has to be equated to Brahman, and Brahman has to be defined as Sat Chit Anandam Advayam. That is the meaning of the first part of that particular sentence. And the next one, you look at the word and look at the last one, Avastu. So the first here was Vastu. Now we are defining Avastu. What is Avastu? Ajnanadi. Beginning from Ajnanam, beginning from ignorance. So first Avastu is ignorance. And out of that ignorance, what happens? Sagala Jada Sammuhaha. Sammuhaha means collection, right? Sagalam is all, Jadam is inert, Sammuha is collection. You have to add over there the Adi, Ajnan Adi. Adi means the products, etc. Ignorance, etc. is the meaning of Ajnan Adi. So Ajnanam means ignorance, Adi here is etc. 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 means all the products of Ajnanam, all that which is born from Ajnanam, which is Sagala Jada Sammoha. The entire collection of inert objects. Which is what? What is the entire collection of inert objects?
The Vishaya.
Jagat.
The Jagat, the universe.
Jagat.
Right. So the entire inert universe is Avastu. So all matter is Avastu, right? So remember here, very carefully he has defined what is Vastu and what is Avastu. Vastu is Brahman. Avastu is all the products of Ajnanam. We are not saying products of Brahman. We are saying all the products of Ajnanam. Samashti Ajnanam. So all matter is Avastu and consciousness principle is Vastu. Okay. Having used the word, a new word has been introduced here. What is the word? You see, you're seeing the flow. Every time he introduces the word, he has to define. So in this, what is the one word, an important concept, which has not been defined in this topic 33?
Ajnanam.
Ajnanam. Right. He has introduced the word Ajnanam because he has said Ajnanadi, beginning from Ajnanam and the products of Ajnanam. And therefore, in the next topic, he will define Ajnanam. We will read. Ajnanam tu
Jnanam tu
sad asadhyam
prasadyam
anirvachaniyam
anirvachaniyam
trigunatmakam jnana virodhi
त्रिगुणात्मकं ज्ञानविरोधी
भावरूपम यत्किंचिदिति
भावरूपं यत्किञ्चिदिति
वदन्ति अहमज्ञ इति
वदन्त्यहमज्ञ इति
आद्यनुभवात्
आद्यनुभवात्
देवात्मशक्तिं
देवात्मशक्तिं
स्वगुणैर्निगूढाम्
स्वगुणैर्निगूढाम्
इत्यादि श्रुतेश्च
इत्यादिश्रुतेश्च.
Okay. So, going back to Tattva Bodha, we saw three sharirams, three bodies in Tattva Bodha, and the cause for the first two bodies is Karana Shariram. At the individual level, that Karana Shariram was called what? Tattva Bodha. This is an expansion.
Avidya.
Avidya. Right. So, individual level, the Karana Shariram is Avidya. What is the corresponding Samashti Karana Shariram called?
Maya.
Maya.
Another name?
Anirvachaniyam. Mula
Prakriti, Antaryami, Karana Prapancha. All these are names. So we must remember all these names. Okay. And here, let me just read out to you the definition of Karana Shariram in Tattva Bodha. Okay. Because in our discussion, we look at that. So what was the question in Tattva Bodha? Karana Shariram Kim. What is Karana Shariram? What was the answer? Anirvachya Anadividya Rupam Sharir Dvayasya Karana Matram Swarupa Ajnanam Nirvikalpa Rupam Yadasti Tat Karana Shariram. Right? This is what was said in the Tattva Bodha. And there, in our analysis in Tattva Bodha, if you remember, we began from Sthula Shariram, gross body, and slowly moved up to Samashti Karana Shariram. So here, it is exactly the reverse order. Why is reverse order? Because it's Ajnana Adi, he said. He starts from Ajnana. And now here he is dividing Ajnanam into two. So the Vyashti Ajnanam, the micro level Ajnanam, and Samashti Ajnanam, the macro level Ajnanam, which we can call, the Vyashti Ajnanam is called Karana Shariram, and the Samashti Ajnanam is called Karana Prapancha. What does Prapancha mean?
The universe.
Prapancha?
Prapancha.
Prapancha, universe, born out of the five elements. Prapancha. Okay. So remember that at Vyashti level, the same Ajnanam has a different name. It's called Karana Shariram, also called Avidya. At Samashti, at the macro level, it is called Karana Prapancha, it is called Samashti Ajnanam, it is called Maya also, it is called Prakriti also. So these names very important, because as we go on with the scriptures, you will find all these names are used, and we should not get confused and think that they are different events or different entities. They are all the same. And we should also note here that here Sadananda differs from Tattva Bodha in the sense that Tattva Bodha did not define Ajnanam, and here he is now defining Ajnanam. He has introduced Ajnanam in the last topic. So here is defining Ajnanam. And he uses 4 different technical words. Sad, Asadbhyam, Anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam means that which cannot be categorized. Nirvachaniyam is category. Anirvachaniyam is that which cannot be categorized. As what? Sad, Asad, Bhyam. So that which cannot be categorized as either Sat or Asat, this is called Ajnanam. One of the 4 technical words which represents Ajnanam. If you want an example, it is the Rajju Sarpa, rope snake. The rope snake as a combined entity, it cannot be categorized as Sat. Why?
Because snake doesn't have existence.
The snake doesn't have existence by itself. At the same time, you cannot say it is Asat. Why?
Because of rope.
Because
The rope is there.
Because the rope is the adhishthana.
no. We are talking about the Rajju Sarpa, which is the snake on the rope. The rope is there, nobody is denying. But we have just said the snake on that rope is not Sat because it doesn't exist without the rope.
Because
No.
it's a Vyaharika Satyam.
No, because it's a
Not
vastu.
Vyavaharika.
It's a vastu, and for that vastu is required.
No. Why is it not Asat is the reason.
Because I have it in my mind. I am not Asat.
Because it is not tuch
Yeah.
nishchaya, and snake exists otherwise.
No.
It-
The
No.
reason why you
Vidya.
are saying it is not Asat, if it was Asat, it should not have had any effects on you. Asat means non-existing. A non-existing snake would not frighten you. Remember here, Asat is Puchcharupa Asat, like the rabbit horn. So here, it is not categorized as Sat because it doesn't exist independently. It cannot be categorized as Asat because you are seeing it and the effects
Yeah.
are being felt. And therefore, it is Mithya Rupa Asat. So it's called Mithya. Whatever is Mithya falls in the definition of Sat, Asat, Anirvachaniyam. Sat, Asat, Vilakshanam, we call it. Neither Sat nor Asat. Where Asat is Tuchcharupa Asat, complete Asat. Right? That you must remember. And therefore, this rope snake is Mithya. It exists. It is capable of frightening you. But once you know its real nature, you dismiss it. So that is the one definition of Ajnana. One technical definition. The second one he has used is Triguna Atmakam. So Atmakam here is nothing to do with the Atma as such. Atmakam means of the nature of. So Triguna Atmakam, having the nature of the 3 gunas. How do we know that Ajnanam has 3 gunas? So because we see the products of Ajnanam. We see what? Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Dravya Shakti. Jnana Shakti is which guna?
Sattva.
Tattva,
Sattva,
Kriya Shakti,
Rajas,
Rajas,
and Dravyam means that inertness.
Tamas.
Okay. Dravya Shakti
Tamas.
is Tamas. So you are seeing the products of Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Dravya Shakti, which have Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And there is a rule in Vedanta, Karana Gunaha Karye Anuvartante. The products, the characteristics of the product is lent by the creator, right? The Upadana Karanam, the material cause, lends the characteristics to the products. Karana Guna Karye Anuvartante. And therefore, if you reverse that, if you are seeing some gunas in the products, you have to infer what? That the Karanam, which is Ajnanam here, Karanam also has these 3 gunas, and therefore Triguna Atmakam. Okay, so Ajnanam has been defined in 2 ways. One is Sat Asat Anirvachaniyam or Sat Asat Vilakshanam. And the other one is Triguna Atmakam, consisting of three gunas. Then the third one he uses Jnana Virodhi, opposed to knowledge. Right? Just as, how will you say this? Just as the fact that I am ignorant of the fact that I am the waker, it is because of that ignorance that the dreamer and the dream universe is born. Right? If you knew that you were the waker in your dream, you wouldn't be having the dream. In the dream, out of the waker has come the dreamer. And it is the dreamer and the dream universe which has been created by the waker. But after creation, the dreamer, who is no other than the waker, has forgotten that he is the waker. Therefore, the ignorance of the waker is the bijam, the seed for the Swapna Prapancha, for the dream universe, which includes the dreamer. Similarly, the Samashti Ajnana, Samashti ignorance, Maya, is the seed for the whole Jagrat Prapancha, for the waking universe. Remember, both are different orders of reality. As a waker, you are Vyavaharika Satyam. As a dreamer, you are which Satyam?
Pratibhasika.
Pratibhasika Satyam. So Pratibhasika Satyam is one level of reality lower than Vyavaharika. That difference is maintained. Similarly, Samashti Ajnanam is a seed for the whole Jagrat Prapancha. Jagrat Prapancha is Vyavaharika Satyam. The higher level is what? Paramarthika Satyam. Right? As Brahman, you are Paramarthika Satyam. So, three technical words, not very difficult, have been used. Sad, Asad, Vilakshanam, or Anirvachaniyam, Triguna Atmakam, and Jnana Virodhi. So far, any difficulty? All highly technical discussions, but very, very useful for your future progress in Vedanta, because ideas are being clarified in a way in which you won't find in most texts. Okay. Then we said there are four technical words. The fourth one is called Bhava Rupa. Now, this is a very, very, technical Vedantic issue. Okay. What, for example, would you define ignorance as, if you have to relate it to knowledge? What is the
Erroneous, wrong knowledge.
anybody else?
In Vedanta,
Opposed to knowledge.
Okay, many people define ignorance as absence of knowledge, right? Just like if I ask you what is darkness, what will you say? Absence of light. And therefore many people define ajnanam as absence of jnanam. Okay, so this you must remember. It's a very common definition that ignorance is defined as absence of jnana. That is, now the question to be asked here is the term absence. Okay, it's a very technical thing. You have to struggle with it. The term absence, is it an existing entity or a non-existing entity? So in Sanskrit, this absence, is it bhava rupam or abhava rupam? Bhava rupam means existing, abhava rupam means non-existing. That's a very technical subject, which is, a lot of people have lots of discussion on it. Now, supposing somebody says that absence, we talk about absence of ignorance, Absence of knowledge, sorry. About absence of jnana. Okay. Supposing this absence is a non-existent entity. Okay. Supposing you define ajnanam as absence of jnanam, and absence becomes a abhava rupam, non-existing entity, what is the problem? The problem is, what is the product of ajnanam? We just saw rope, snake example. What is the product of ajnanam?
Wrong knowledge.
For knowledge.
Error, right? Product of ajnanam is error. Now, if an error is generated, is the error existing or non-existing?
Existing.
It exists.
Error exists because you have committed the error. Now the question to be asked is, if this ajnanam is, the absence is defined as abhava rupam, non-existent entity, then you are saying that a non-existing ajnanam is the karanam for the existing error. You are getting the argument? You are
Yes.
saying that a non-existing ignorance is the generator of an existing error.
But that can't be so.
Why?
Because the
existing.
error has to exist.
Because
Right.
ignorance has to exist.
So this is technically called asat karyavada. Asat means asat is the karanam, karya is the product. And therefore a asat karanam, a non-existing karanam, giving rise to existing product, it is called asat karyavada, which some darshanas have, but Vedanta does not accept. And therefore we say that a non-existing entity cannot be the cause of any existing product. And therefore he says, because to reinforce that, he says, even though this ajnanam has these four, what do you call, definitions, the best way to define it is yat kinchit iti, some entity, yat kinchit, some entity with the four features that we have talked about, which is sadasad vilakshanam, triguna atmakam, jnana virodhi, and bhavarupam. Some entity, right? He doesn't know exactly what. Some entity having these four, what do you call, features is called ajnana. This is the definition. Now, the question might come, how do you say that there is ignorance? What is the proof that ignorance is there? And therefore he says, vadanti aham ajnaha iti adhya anubhavat. Because of my current experience, that I am ignorant. Vadanti. Everybody talks about the fact that I am not Easwaran, I am not Brahman, that I am a human being, I am finite. Everybody talks about it. Based on what? Adhya anubhavat. My daily experience is that I am a limited person. And therefore, this particular discussion which we have every day with somebody, oh, I'm sick, I got fever, I'm a bad person, I'm a good person, all this vadanti. Because of that, that is the very proof. The fact that you think that you are limited, that is the very proof that there is ignorance. I am the Sakshi. Why? Because I'm able to perceive that I have the ignorance. And he says, I am not saying this. This has been talked about in Upanishad also. So, Shweta Ashvatara Upanishad. Shweta Ashvatara Upanishad. He gives a quotation. Devatma Shaktim Sagunair Nigudham. Nigudham means associated with. Devatma Shakti is Maya Shakti. Swaguna is three gunas. So he says Maya Shakti of the Lord, Devatma Shakti. Sagunahi Nigudam is associated with your three gunas. That Maya, which itself has three gunas, that is associated with you all the time. Okay, now we look at topic number 35, which is he's further expanding this. So we'll read. Idam ajnanam samashti vyashti
Idamajnanam samashtivyashti
abhiprayena
abhiprayena
ekam anekamiti
ekamanekamitti
cha vyavahiryate vyavahiryate
vyavahriyate
vyavahiryate.
vyavahiryate.
Okay. So what is he saying? Abhiprayena. Abhipraya means a viewpoint, a way of looking. So he says there are two ways of looking at this whole thing. What is that? Samashti, Vyashti. Idam ajnanam abhiprayena. At this ajnanam, idam ajnanam, at this ajnanam, abhiprayena, there are two ways of dividing, there are two ways of viewing it as what? Samashti and Vyashti. So one is Samashti, which is macro ajnanam, and one is Vyashti, which is micro ajnanam. And then you look at that ekam, anekam, iti. So ekam has to be connected to samashti. So samashti ekam iti and vyashti anekam iti vyavihriyate. It is discussed as such. So samashti ajnanam ekam iti is only one. What is that? Maya. Vyashti ajnanam is anekam, has got multiple entities. Vyavahriyate. So vyavahriyate is a verbal usage, an expression, the words found in the Shastra. So he says these words, samashti and vyashti, are found very often in the Shastram, and whenever you find the word samashti, it has to be associated with ekam, with one samashti only, that is Maya. And whenever you find the word vyashti, it has to be associated with aneka ajnanam. Right? There is a eka ajnanam, which is Maya. One single ajnanam is Maya at the samashti level. And there is vyashti ajnanam, which is anekam. Multiple ajnanams are there, which are called avidya or individual karma shariram. This has to be understood whenever you see the words samashti, vyashti in the Shastra. And now he gives a few examples to explain that. So, very, very detailed study of the subject. So, we will read topic number 36. Tathahi yatha vrikshanam
Yatha vrikshanam
samashthyabhiprayena
samashyabhiprayena
vanamityekatva
vanamityekatva
vanam ityekatva
vanamityekatva
vyapadesho yathava
vyapadesho yatava
jalanam samashthyabhiprayena
jalanam samashyabhiprayena
jalashaya iti
jalashaya iti
tatha nanatvena
tathananatena
pratibhasamananam
pratibhasamananam
jivagata jnananam
jivagata-jnananam
samashthyabhiprayena
samashyabhiprayena
tadekatva vyapadeshaha
तदेकत्व व्यपदेशः
ajamekam ityadi shrutehe.
अजामेकाम् इत्यादि श्रुतेः.
Okay, so in the last topic he said that Samashti Ajnanam is to be looked at as Eka Ajnanam, one Ajnanam when viewed from the point of view of the macro. Macro ignorance is only one, which is Maya, and that Maya is the seed form of the universe. Prakriti, what we call, or Maya, what we call, is the Upadana Karana, the material cause for the Jagat. Why is it called Ajnanam? So Ajnanam it is called because whatever can be negated in the wake of Jnanam is Ajnanam. When Jnanam comes, whatever is destroyed is what? Ajnanam. It's as simple as that. Okay, and therefore he says, Samashti Abhiprayena, from the standpoint of your Samashti, and we have to add here Vashti also. From the standpoint of view of Samashti, everything can be seen as totality. From the standpoint of Vyashti, the micro, everything can be seen as individual. And Tathahi, to elaborate on this idea, he gives two examples. Yatha vrikshanam samashti abhiprayena vanam iti ekatva vyapadesha. Okay, so that the breakups are important, if you can see. Yatha vrikshanam samashti abhiprayena vanam iti ekatva vyapadesha. Vyapadesha means we use the expression. What do we use? Vrikshanam. In respect of trees, samashti abhiprayena, when there is a large body of trees, what do we say? Vanam iti ekatva. Vanam is a forest. Iti ekatva means that forest is only one. From the point of view of the forest, that bunch of trees is referred to as a forest, and forest is ekatva, singular in number. Yatha vrikshanam samashti abhiprayena vanam iti ekatva vyapadesha. But vrikshanam, from the point of view of the trees alone, without being referred to as a bunch of trees, if you are wanting to refer to the trees only, there is multiplicity. So from the individual point of the trees, from individual tree if you are referring to, there are many trees. But if you are taking the tree as one body and calling it a forest, there is only one forest. That's what it means. And similarly, Yathava, similarly, Jalanam samashti abhiprayena jalashaya iti. So jalashaya is waves or bubbles. And from the point of view of Jalam, the ocean, samashti abhiprayena, there is only one. But from the point of view of the same water as bubbles or as waves, there are many. So if you are referring to the waves and the bubbles individually, there are many. But if you are referring to all of them as the ocean, then there is only a singular number. And tatha, in the same manner, you must look at the jivas also. Tatha, jivas also. How do you look? Nanatvena pratibhasamananam jivagata ajnananam. So all jiva-gata ajnananam, all ajnanams belonging to all the jivas. So gata here has to be taken as belonging to or staying with. Therefore, jiva-gata ajnananam, all the ajnanam belonging to all the jivas. How do they appear? Nanatvena. They appear as many. Pratibhasa bhananam. They appear as many. So ajnanams belonging to jivas, which basically is what? Samashti ajnanam only. It is one single maya only. But since they are being looked at from the point of view of the individual jivas, the individual bodies, they appear as multiple avidyas. They appear as multiple individual ajnanams. However, samashti abhiprayena, when you look at it from the point of view of the macro, the samashti, tat ekatva vyapadesha. it is called as Eka Ajnanam, which is called Maya, which is called Prakriti. And he gives a Shruti quotation, Ajomekam ityadi Shrutehe. Again, Shweta Shvatara Upanishad, referring to that Shruti says, this particular mantra says that Ajnanam is Ekam, is Ekam, is in singular number only. And he says, I am not saying this. Shruti also says that basic Ajnanam is Maya, which is only one. Okay. All right. So far, any questions? Okay. So let us read topic number 37. Iyam samashtihi
Iyam samashtihi
utkrashtopaditaya
utkrishtopaditaya
vishuddha sattva pradhana
Vishuddha
Vishuddha
Sattva Pradhana.
Sattva Pradhana.
Okay. So now he's talking about the nature of samashti ajnana, the nature of the macro ignorance. Iyam samashtihi, you have to supply here ajnanam. So this samashti ajnanam utkrishta upaditaya. Utkrishta means superior. Upadi is the reflecting medium. Utkrishta upaditaya, because it is superior reflecting medium. Why is it so? Vishuddha sattva pradhanam. Because in that Maya, what is the reflecting medium? Maya only. Okay. It is a upadi for what? This Maya is a upadi for whom?
Brahman.
For Brahman. Okay. And remember, we are talking about Ishvara. Why?
Because Maya is also there. Ishvara is Maya plus Brahman.
Ishvara is Maya Sahita Brahman.
Hmm.
Okay. So when you are saying Utkrishta Upadi, you are saying this Ishvara's Maya is Utkrishta Upadi. It's a superior Upadi. Why? Because it is Sattva Guna predominant. Vishuddha Sattva Pradhanaha. Sattva Guna predominant Maya is the Upadi for Brahman. And that Brahman, which has got Maya with dominant Sattva Guna, that is called Ishvara. Vishuddha Sattva means Sattva Guna not polluted. Pure Sattva Guna. Vishuddha Sattva. Pure Sattva Guna is what? Not polluted by Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And since Rajoguna and Tamoguna does not pollute the Maya, it's not that it is not there. You understand that whenever we say Maya, all three gunas are there. But we are saying here that Sattva Guna is so dominant that Rajoguna and Tamoguna do not influence that Sattva Guna at all. And this predominantly Sattva Guna Maya, when it becomes Upadi for Brahman, the product is Ishvara. And that is why Samashti Ajnanam can be associated with Ishvara, but does not create any problems for Ishvara. Why? Because at Samashti level, because Rajoguna does not pollute, what Shakti of Maya is not operational?
The Kriya
Tamoguna,
Shakti.
Tamoguna does not pollute. Rajoguna is there, Tamoguna does not pollute. Since Tamoguna does not pollute, Avarna Shakti of Ajnanam does not operate. Rajoguna operates, but only with Vikshepa Shakti, the creative power. Right? And because Sattva Guna is predominant, we say that Ishvara has creative power because of the predominance of Sattva Guna and not polluted by Rajo or Tamas. And because Tamas does not pollute, Avarna Shakti is not operational. And therefore, Ishvara can create but he does not forget that he is the creator. Does it make sense? Because of the non-pollution of Maya Shakti by Rajo and Tamo, it is predominantly associated with Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna predominant Maya in association with Brahman gives rise to Ishvara. Sattva Guna is required for creation. Why? Why is Sattva Guna required for creation?
Because it's associated with Jnanam.
Because it's associated with Jnanam. Without Jnanam, you cannot create, right? Even to make a masala dosa, you need Jnanam, right? That small, making a dosha, you need knowledge of how to make it. How much more knowledge is required for this very complicated universe? And therefore, Sattva Guna associated with Ishvara is the reason why Sattva Guna, dominant Maya being the Upadhi, makes Ishvara the creator. Okay. So at Samashti level, the Avarana Shakti of Ajnanam does not operate. Hence Ishvara creates, but he never forgets that he is the creator. Very, very clear concepts, not found in Tattva Bodha. Any questions? You should be wrestling with all these things, not only now, but for over the next week.
This is like Bhashyam for the Tattva Bodha.
This is a very extended version of Tattva Bodha.
So, Om Raviji,
Yeah.
this means Ishvara doesn't have the avarna or the veiling Shakti, which
Yes,
in
because
Avidya.
exactly, because Tamaguna is not polluting, the Avarana Shakti does not operate for Ishvara.
Fine.
In fact, if
While on the Vyashti side, this will work. This will
Vyashti
both
side,
these
obviously, Rajogun,
Avarna.
Vyashti side is Malina Sattvam. Okay, it's not Shuddha
Yeah.
Sattvam.
Yeah.
And that we'll see later on also. So let us look at the next one. Topic number 38. We will read. Etad upahitam chaitanyam
Etad
Etat upahitam chaitanyam
sarvajñatva
sarvajñatva
sarveshwaratva
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 sarvaniyantratvaadi
sarvaniyantratvaadi
gunakam avyaktam
Gunakam
gunakam avyaktam
antaryami
antaryami
jagat karanamishvara iti
Jagat
jagat
Karanam
karanamishvaramiti
cha vyapadishyate
Cha
vyapadishyate
sakala ajnana avabhasakatvat
sakala ajnana avabhasakatvat
yaha sarvajña sarvavit
Yaha
yah
sarvajna
sarvajña sarvavit
iti shrutehe.
iti shrutehe.
Therefore, you have to connect it to the last verse. Since Samashti Ajnanam is Utkrishta Upadhi, since it is superior Upadhi, what happens? Etat Upahitam Chaitanyam. So, Upadhi is the one which lends the attributes, the one which borrows the attributes is called Upahitam. So, that is what it means. Etat Upahitam Chaitanyam. This Chaitanyam, which is the borrower of the attributes of the Upadhi. Right? So, Etat Upahitam Chaitanyam. Chaitanyam means Upahitam over here, the one which is borrowing the attributes, seemingly borrowing, not really borrowing, seemingly borrowing the attributes from Maya. What kind of Maya? Maya which is Sattva predominant. And because of the superiority of that Sattva predominant Maya, that Upadhi, which has very, very good supreme attributes, it seems to give those to Brahman. So that Gunakam, that Maya, Gunakam, endowed with the following attributes. What are they? Sarvajñatva, omniscience, all knowledge. Sarva Isharatva, omnipotence, overlordship. Sarva Niyantratvadi, controller of everything. So Vyapadishyate. This entire macro RC, Vyapadishyate means known as. The entire macro RC, which is what? The reflection of Brahman on this Upadhi, which is predominantly Tattva oriented. That is called what? Avyaktam and Antaryami. Two names are given. Avyaktam and Antaryami. Here we must remember that normally Avyaktam means Maya. The word Avyaktam normally refers to Maya. But here is borrowing from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where in one particular mantra, Ishvara is also called Avyaktam. So here, in the context, if you see, Avyaktam has to mean Ishvara because he's talking about the RC itself. And therefore, Antaryami, the inner controller, also Jagat Karanam, the cause of the universe, also Ishvara iti, also called Ishvara. And why does Ishvara get all these names? Sakala Ajnana Avabhasakatvat. Avabhasakam is illumination. Avabhasakatvat means because of the illumination. Therefore, because Ishvara reveals Sagala Ajnanam, Samashti Ajnanam, Ishvara reveals the entire Srishti in its potential form. Therefore, it is called Ishvara. And this is not only he is saying it, not only Sadananda is saying it, he is saying Yaha Sarvagnya Sarvavit. It is a quotation from Mundaka Upanishad, which some of you may remember. This Ishvara is Sarvagnya Sarvavit. He is all knowledgeable in particular and all knowledgeable in general also. So those who have studied Mundaka will know what the two words mean. Sarvagnya and Sarvavit are two different words. One talks about specific knowledge. One talks about Aham Brahmasmi knowledge. With this, we'll end for today. Any questions? If I know it's difficult to have questions at this stage, but I would urge you to read this again and again, hear this again and again, make notes. And if you have any questions, please put it in the group. I will answer them to the best of my ability.
So it was quite tough today.
It is going to get even tougher. Okay, so basic Vedanta study, the concepts are more difficult to assimilate than the flow of the Shruti. Once the concepts are clear, Shruti is very clear. That is why Prakarana Granthas are so important.
Sir, when we listen to you and when we hear the recording, we seem to understand, but then the recall
That is why you should
becomes a
make
little.
notes and
Yes.
revise and revise and revise. And that is why we say extended period of listening over several years. Slowly our minds fall into the pattern.
Yes.
Thank you for your patience. We'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Acharya.